Have you ever woken up after a cold night, sneezing, and your nose blocked? Do your parents or grandparents insist that you wear socks and warm clothes at night, especially when it's cold, so that you don't get sick? Do colds and flu really peak during the cooler seasons? Does cold weather really make us sick? Hello, science fans! My name is Chona. I'm your resident Filipino scientist, and join us in this episode where we talk about whether the cold weather really gives us colds. The cold can make us sick. At least, that's what my mom told me. And so, for decades, I wore socks at night, didn't sleep with wet hair, and generally kept away from cold drafts. But is it really cold temperatures that make us sick? In terms of infectious illnesses, such as colds or flu, germs make you sick, not cold weather itself.
What?
You have to come into contact with rhinoviruses to catch a cold, or the influenza virus if you're infected with the flu. Human rhinoviruses, of which there are more than 100 types, is by far the most common identified cause of colds. But you can also get a cold if you come into contact with coronaviruses, parainfluenza viruses, and adenoviruses, which are, with the exception of the one causing the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot less common. On the other hand, there are 3 different types of flu or influenza viruses that affect humans. And did you know that animals and humans can contract what is called the type A flu? Because the flu virus that causes it can be transmitted from animals to humans. Influenza viruses also have the tendency to mutate fast, and thus they often cause yearly or annual outbreaks. Recent research has found that these viruses manipulate our genes, and it is this manipulation that brings about an overblown immune response. And thus, we end up overproducing mucus that causes us to sniffle, sneeze, and have difficulty breathing. And if these symptoms are not controlled, it can lead to more serious diseases. But wait, if it's germs making us sick, why do cases of cold and flu rise during colder seasons? Well, while the cold isn't the primary reason why we get sick, there might be a connection between getting chilled and getting colds, because cold air might actually contribute to the conditions that lead to an illness. For example, some viruses are actually more likely to spread during cold weather, like the rhinovirus, which replicates much faster when our body is about 1 to 2 degrees cooler. Another study also found that immune system cells initiate a more robust antiviral defense at warmer temperatures between 35 to 37 degrees Celsius. This implies that the body might not fight the virus as well if the nose and the upper respiratory tract are cooler than usual because of cold temperatures. Another possible reason is that poor ventilation indoors can make it easy for cold and flu viruses to get into your nasal passages. For example, researchers from Tianjin University found that students who lived in dorms with poor ventilation caught colds more, while researchers from Virginia Tech saw that good ventilation and higher relative humidity rendered the influenza A virus inactive. Additional research from the National Institute of Health suggests that the coating of a flu virus becomes tougher at temperatures close to freezing, making them more active, more resilient, and easier to transmit in the winter. But then again, we don't really have to worry about winter here in the Philippines, do we? Now, if your cold symptoms also flare up in the mornings but go away for the rest of the day, it might actually be caused by allergies, not the cold temperature. Morning allergies can be triggered by prolonged exposure to allergens that accumulate in the bedroom, such as dust, bed mites, pet fur, and so many more. But if you have a history of asthma or upper respiratory conditions, I have some bad news. Cold weather can actually create problems for you. Cold air is bad for most people with asthma because it can actually irritate the upper bronchial tubes, which would result to asthma symptoms. So, it would be best for you to stay warm as much as possible. And so, science has spoken. The cold doesn't make us sick. Germs do. But we tend to get sick more during the cold seasons because of how lower temperatures can cause germs to spread faster. Having poor ventilation indoors, especially when it's cold, can also cause viruses to enter our nasal passages much better. And there are instances when our symptoms might be caused by allergies and not germs. These are triggered by dust and mites and fur that accumulate in our homes. But those with asthma should still be careful when we have cold weather, because the cold air can irritate their respiratory systems. The germs that cause colds and flu are spread at any season by breathing them in or touching contaminated surfaces and then touching your nose and eyes. So at any season, whether it's warm or cold, the best ways to avoid getting the cold or the flu is to ensure proper ventilation, to keep our mouth and nose covered, especially when we're sneezing or coughing, and to practice proper hygiene. But what do you think? Are there other ways that the cold weather can cause us to get sick? Did you also believe that cold weather or getting soaked by the rain can cause us to get colds or flu? Let us know your thoughts and ideas in the comments section below. And for a daily dose of science goodness, please follow SHE-ensya on Facebook and on Instagram. Follow me also at shona.abeledo. Thank you so much for joining us in today's cool episode, and I hope to see you around!